Hi everyone, welcome back to our garden and welcome to the July back garden tour. This will be a first for me. I'm doing the back garden tour this month. As you guys know, Janey does these garden tours, front yard and backyard, one a month, every month. She's done that since the very first beginning of her channel. But right now she is on her way to Cultivate, the garden industry trade show back in Columbus, Ohio. She's on her way as we speak. And so I just thought I would take over and go through this garden tour and maybe give you a bit of a view from a different perspective. As you could probably guess, I'm not going to be as much of an expert on the flowers and the plants and the beautiful things, but there are a lot of kind of thoughts that I have as far as what's going wrong, what needs to be fixed, what can be adjusted, troubleshooting. So maybe a little bit more technical. Hopefully that's not more boring for some of you guys. I'll still try to show some of the pretty stuff, but that's my plan for this video. The other thing I wanted to make sure you guys know is as far as this Cultivate trade show conference that she's at, she's got so many fun things lined up. She's got all these interesting people that she's scheduled to meet, fun garden tours that she's doing with other YouTubers, with viewers of the channel that live back in that area, and just all sorts of fun, cool things planned. Cultivate is open to the public. I don't know if it's open every day. Check their website. I try to get exactly what the schedule is, but she is going to be there 2 days. If you guys are in the area, want to drop by and say hi, she'll be at the Proven Winners booth a good chunk of the time. Check the digplantwaterrepeat.com website for the hour she's going to be there, or go ahead and go on the Cultivate. I'm assuming it's just good. They look up Cultivate on Google and find the website there, and it'll tell you which days it's open to the public. It might be every day, I'm not sure, but that's going on this weekend. So as many of you likely know, especially any of you guys that live out here on the West Coast like us, we are going through just a massive heat wave right now. I don't even remember the last time that we've had this an extended period of time over 100 degrees, many of those days above 110. It was 111 today, and right now I'm sitting here filming. It's about 7:30 p.m. I think it's still 107. If you see some beads of sweat dripping down my forehead or my nose, apologize, but it is hot. All right, so I'm going to start over here on the side of our house. Front door is over there. And this is our secret shade garden. At least that's the plan for this, is to make it a secret shade garden. As you can see, it is not getting as much shade as we hoped it was going to get when we first moved in here and had this plan. If you go over here and you have right here this dahlia, this nice cute purple flower here, this one's doing pretty well. It's actually, there's another spot I'll show you in a minute that it's really thriving because it's in a little bit more shade, but despite being a little bit more sun than it wants to be, it's actually doing pretty well. Behind it is this Surefire white begonia. These guys are incredible. These Surefire begonias, we've got some planted over by the orange trees in shade. Some are in full shade under our front porch. Some are in more sun. These get a ton of sun actually in this spot. And it doesn't matter where you put them, they do great. These plants are fast becoming one of my favorites just because they're super easy. They're not picky at all. So very cool. We've got a bank of them here and another bank back here, and they just keep growing. They keep getting bigger. Great plants. Contrast that, if we drop down here, these are these Brunnera, and they are really pretty. They're beautiful, and they were doing great up until about last week. These two seem to be doing fine, but if you look right behind, we have a couple here that, I mean, this happened over the course of a day. They just up and died and shriveled to nothing so quickly. And I've got to think it's just because they're getting too much sun and too much heat and they just can't handle it. But it's interesting that, you know, a couple just right next to some other ones can't handle it, and these seem to be still doing okay. That might change quickly like it did for those, but you know, to this point, they're doing okay. I've checked the watering. The watering's not the issue. I'm actually going to show you more Brunnera in a different spot that there's a similar situation. It's the exact two plants in the exact same conditions with very different results. The other plant next that's having a similar experience is this hosta right here. You can tell it's just totally scorched, singed. This one over here, same story. Yeah, they just need to have more shade. We've got to be more gentle to these plants And so our plan is to put in very soon a shade cloth. So what I want to do is I want to go to, I'm not sure even where I would buy the best one, if Home Depot sells them or if I'll get them on Amazon somewhere, but I've got to look into getting a shade cloth. And I just want to bridge the gap from the house over to the fence over here. There's plenty of places to tie them off. We'll probably need fairly large ones to bridge this gap. It's bigger than it even looks on camera, but we're probably going to have at least a couple of shade cloths. Maybe we can tie them to this tree. This tree is there's actually a double fence here. So there's our wood fence, and then there's a wire fence on the other side that keeps the goats in their area. And these trees are actually between the two fences. I'm not even sure if they're technically our trees or their trees, which property line they're on, but I think I'm going to go ahead and tie a shade cloth to those trees just as a good anchor point. But yeah, I'm going to do that because these plants definitely need some help. And by the way, we got the fountain working. It's doing well. It looks like it might be a touch clogged right now in a couple of those tubes, but overall it's working. So that's good news. As we move this way, and we've got more of these surefire begonias that, again, there's even a little bit more sun in this bed and more of the afternoon sun, but they're doing great. The Brunnera in front of it, they seem to be doing fine as well. That's interesting. I don't know if it's just an issue of which ones maybe rooted in better than others or something, and so they weren't able to take up as much water. I'm not sure what's going on there, but these seem to be hanging on, at least for now. These are, I believe these are Sun Patience, or a variety similar to that. Yeah, this is a Rockapulco Red Impatient. I believe that they're supposed to be more sun tolerant, and they were doing really well. I was pretty impressed with them until this past week of several days above 110. We got up to 117 or 119 one day, and then they started to show signs of stress too. So I'm hoping that they can hang on and they'll start to bounce back. We have nice, cool 94, 95 degree weather coming up. So hopefully that'll be enough to help them out. And maybe in combination with the shade cloth, we can get these guys to start to come back. Moving over here, we have these Morbrowalia over here. Again, cute plants and hanging on, doing okay. This pot here, we've got this creeping jenny and a hydrangea in here, and these are doing okay. I know there's plenty of water to this pot, so that helps. But yeah, these are looking all right. We've got clematis on the fence on each side of our wire trellis here, and yeah, they seem to be doing just fine. They haven't been here that long, and they're getting by, and they seem to be putting on some new growth too. That's encouraging. All right, then if we swing around over here, now here's what I was talking about. This garden bed closer to the house, of course, gets quite a bit more shade. And check out this Browalia here. Just looks great. That's really doing well. The coleus next to it also doing great. Camellia there is, of course, not blooming this time of year, but it's green. It's doing just fine. And then the various heucheras that we have here also hanging in, doing quite all right. And then as we go this way, a few more heucheras, again, going just fine. A little dusty, but a little bit of wind and some of this fine grit from this pathway will do that. Not too worried about those. Over here, we have this hydrangea that we got from our neighbor where we used to live. And these were all this beautiful deep pink purpley color like those. And then I'm not sure, you guys would probably know better than me if they're supposed to fade to this color or if it's just because of the heat. But as it turns out, I think it's cool, like this kind of dusty pink kind of color. I think this is actually really pretty. So I don't know if that will, if we need to prune those and that'll come back, or if we just let that go. I'll let Janey handle that. But either way, whether it's the brighter pink or the dustier pink, I can look at that. I think that's cool. And then over here is another hydrangea. Don't remember which variety this is. It almost looks like a limelight hydrangea, but don't quote me on that. But it seems to be doing just fine. But again, quite a bit of shade up against the house here. And a bonus weed that I didn't notice earlier. There we go. All right, so moving into the actual backyard, I just want to stop here for a minute and just look around. We've got our new hot tub here, which we have not been in, truth be told, much at all lately, but who wants to be in a hot tub when it's 110 degrees out? Not me. But it'll return to more sane temperatures, and then I'm sure we'll be in that again sometime soon. But yeah, this is a nice view here, looking back past the cut flowers there and the greenhouse down there. This time of night or this time of evening is a really cool view. And then I guess we'll start over here. This is the hibiscus, I believe, gosh, ballerina, I forget the exact name, but this is this hibiscus that we planted, Janey planted, as basically a hedge all the way down this fence line. And they all seem to be just thriving. We've got 2 gallon per hour emitters on them, so they're getting plenty of water, they get plenty of sun, and they are super happy. Haven't seen any blooms yet, but looking over here, it looks like we've got some buds coming. So I'm really looking forward to these. I think this is called ballerina slippers now that I'm thinking about it. And so these are going to be, I think, really pretty. I've seen a similar variety to these, and they just get these gigantic blooms that come out. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how those do. But I think this is a really good success. This planting, this location, plenty of water, plenty of sun, and they are super happy. Now, speaking of plenty of water, I want to talk about something we've got going on here. So you can probably see the ground around here is a little bit darker, a little bit wetter. That's because we've been having problems with the irrigation line actually popping off, coming apart, despite the fact that we have these couplers that can be screwed down and to cinch the tubing together, basically. Oh, hi, Monty. And I've been thinking about it, and because this has been happening fairly frequently in different locations and even different types of couplers too that we've used, some just compression fittings, some of these screw type ones. And I think what's going on is it's just so hot, because this was not happening in the springtime. I think it's so hot that it's heating up the black tubing and it's softening it. And it's gradually, every time that the pressure comes on, it's gradually slipping, and then eventually it pops off. I think what that tells me, and if you guys ever have a similar problem, I think this is going to be the fix, is I'm going to dig shallow trenches, or I might just cover it with a bunch more mulch, just a thicker layer of mulch. That might do the trick, but I feel like I might have to dig just a couple inch trench for some of these and just get them out of the direct sunlight, because yeah, it's been quite an adventure. I wake up and I come out and yeah, we wasted a bunch of water, and then that means that some of the plants didn't get watered for some length of time, and it's impossible to know how long. So I'm going to give that a shot, and I'm going to see if I can get these either buried or at least covered a little bit better, and see if we have a little bit less frequency of having these couplers come apart. I'll let you guys know how that goes, because we definitely don't want to be underwatering plants unknowingly, and we also don't want to be wasting water. Not around here. That's too much of a precious commodity. So I'm going to work hard to get this figured out. All right, and before I go ahead and look at all of these cut flower beds, I want to walk over this way. I'm going to talk a little bit more about this hot tub. This hot tub is by Goodland. It's a wood burning hot tub. It is a totally different concept than most hot tubs. I really actually have liked it as far as the ease of use. It was much easier than I thought. The system, this is where you put the firewood in here, and the system with this vent right here that helps to suck the air down and stoke the fire works incredibly well, and the fire just starts right up, and then the water heats up even quicker than what they have noted on the website, which was a pleasant surprise. And the girls have loved it. It's been super easy to just light that thing, have them jump in, and it's warm pretty quickly and then hot after a little while. Yeah, pretty cool. It's a nice, pretty hot tub. We are going to be wanting to stain this just to preserve the color. You don't have to. They say you can let it be natural and it will gradually sort of gray out. But I think we want to keep it closer to this color. So I think we are going to be staining that here pretty soon. And the other thing that we should talk about is this patio here. So I got this set out just so we could make sure that we had enough room to use the hot tub, essentially. And so that mission was accomplished. I have not gone to the next phase 2 and phase 3, which we need to put one more row of pavers here, put more of that edge right edging, and run that all the way down here. And we're going to run this patio clear across the other side of the deck, and then also take and build a pathway from about here over this way to the office, a pathway that looks very similar to these. It'll be lined in the edge right edging as well. And I think that's going to look really nice when it's all said and done. But with days of 113-degree heat, I just have not wanted to tackle that process or project anytime soon or anytime lately. But we'll get to that. That'll get done here maybe later on in the summer, but I do want to get that finished. It'll look very nice when it's done. If you go over here, these pots, these hanging baskets, I should say, these are doing great. This is Mangave there with this Dichondra Silver Falls. I am so impressed with this Dichondra Silver Falls. It's such a great plant. It just doesn't even mind the heat at all. The more heat we get, the more it just grows and it drapes over the edges, and it just looks fantastic. It's, of course, you guys probably know it's in the front zigzag planter, and it just looks like a beautiful waterfall coming out of that planter with all of the beautiful Superbena behind it. But right here, really great effect as well. I wasn't sure if it would play nice with the Mangave as far as both having water requirements and maybe a little bit different and so on, but so far they're both doing well, and it's a kind of a neat, different kind of a hanging basket there. If we move down here, sorry about the AC unit if you guys can hear that running. These are purple hyacinth bean, and we need to train those up the posts here. This one is growing well, not as well as the other one, but they're both ready to be tied up and trained so they can climb up this pole. In our climate, those things just go crazy, so they're super happy. They just need to be trained a little bit, and then pretty soon we'll have a very cool look up these pillars or these posts here. All right, next interesting thing to talk about is this front of the office here. This actually really looks pretty. These Supertunias are mostly doing well, with some exceptions that I'll show you here. Oh, before I get to that, here is this climbing rose here. I forget the exact name, but this climbing rose is actually doing quite well. It needs to be deadheaded a little bit, but it's doing well. And I think it's gonna be a good fit in that spot. If we look at these Supertunias here, you can see these guys are just beautiful. They look great, they're thriving. Down here, more of the same. These are all good. And then over here, not so much. And I'm not sure what's going on there. I know we've had some watering issues. I'll show you on the other side of the door, similar watering issues. We thought we had too much water going to it, and I think that the baskets weren't, in the pots that they were in, weren't draining well enough. So I actually went through and drilled holes in some that didn't have holes at all, and some I drilled a little bit of a larger hole to get a little bit better drainage. We decreased the water, then we increased it again. I think they're starting to come back. So fingers crossed, in another few weeks, I think we'll have all of these looking really good. So it's a work in progress there. Over here, this Bermuda Beach Supertunia is doing pretty well. More of these other very pretty ones here, I don't know their names, but these are all looking really good. And then we have more of these problem ones over here. These were hanging baskets that we dropped inside of these pots, and combination of the drainage of the basket and or the drainage or lack thereof in the pot itself, turns out they were sitting in standing water, and so they were really struggling, and we didn't understand that was happening. So I've fixed that. I've adjusted the emitters and the time. Like I said, just like over there, we had adjusted it down and then we adjusted it back up again. I'm starting to see some new growth on these guys, so I think we're on the right track. It's going to look maybe a little rough for a while, but I think, again, another few weeks, I think we're going to have this whole area be really pretty again, especially if we get just a little bit of a reduction in the heat. All right, and now over to the cut flower garden. This is just one of our favorite views. You probably guys get to see this view in most of the videos that Janey shoots back here because it's just really pretty. That barn in the background with the greenhouse and these flowers in the foreground, it's just a really nice thing. It's really pretty to look at from our kitchen window, living room window, sitting on the deck over there. It's just a really kind of pleasant area to be. So let's see, over here we have lots of dahlias, and I am not going to know the names of all of these dahlias, but they are lots of different varieties, very pretty flowers, and lots more buds coming too. Yeah, I think this is very cool. We need to probably start cutting some of these and making some bouquets, although I guess that's putting that on Janey because I don't have a whole lot of bouquet making skills. Maybe I need to learn. But yeah, so those are coming along okay. Over here, this, I think I heard Janey say this is stock, or maybe this is snapdragons, and then some more dahlias, I think, but a lot of these are on their last leg now. And then yeah, over here is Dusty Miller, and this stuff is looking pretty good. This is a very pretty plant, nice contrast to most other plants that you might put in a bouquet, or just even sitting in the bed here, just gives a nice, different, unique texture and color. That's a pretty cool plant. All right, and then over here we have some more cut flowers going. I'm not sure if these are dahlias or zinnias or what these are, but these are all looking healthy, and we've got some blooms coming up already, but lots of nice lush green growth. The watering's working well in these beds. You can still see it's actually moist from just being watered a little while ago with our second watering of the day. So those are doing all right. Over here, this is called Ami. I think it's white dill Ami. This was looking just amazing just about a week or two ago. It might be getting toward the end of its life. I'm not sure if it's the heat or if it's just the natural course of things that's getting toward the end. But that's a very cool plant as well. And then these Rudbeckia here, different varieties of Rudbeckia. This is a very beautiful flower. We've got a different variety out in the front island. Those I've been marveling at for weeks. They're a really pretty plant. I'm pretty sure these are Scabiosa here. I don't know what these little guys are called here. But yeah, they're doing okay. Of course, probably could come and thin these out or deadhead them, but we just haven't been out in the yard much in this heat. So this is kind of part of the idea of this garden tour, just to show you the real goings on here. Everything's not perfect. Nobody's garden is going to be perfect with days on end over 110 degrees because it's too hot for some of the plants, and it's just too hot to get out here and work on a consistent basis. So that's fine. We just have to be realistic with our expectations and accept it is what it is. But all told, I think we're doing fine. It's just you have to temper expectations a little bit. That's all. So this is Bells of Ireland here. I think this is really neat, the way that these guys fade out from bottom to top. That's a very cool plant, the way that happens. They still maintain their beauty as they fade. I think that's neat. And then we've got some beautiful big tomato plants growing here. Of course, Super Tunia bubblegum dotting the corner here, just looking fabulous. Although I say of course, and we move over here, same plant. That was a Super Tunia bubblegum. I think that was a watering issue. There's a little bit of a mound in that corner, and I think there was just too much runoff and not enough water soaking in. I think that was our mistake. I think that was just a poor location. We should have dug or leveled that dirt out, that soil out a little bit, and made it a place where the water would hold and remain there a little bit longer. All right, and then another tomato plant here. We've got some nice tomatoes coming there. And then some more vegetables over here. I'd be lying if I told you that I knew what Janey planted here. I don't know, although down there I think I see maybe a zucchini is what that is. Yeah, so that seems to be handling the heat just fine, and we're doing good there. Over here we have the fairy garden that the girls and Janey built back in the springtime. This is going to be in need of a refresh just because it's past the season for some of these flowers. Some of these flowers are still looking just fine. Yeah, that was a fun little project that we did, and the girls really got into it. Sadie even wrote a story to go along with this fairy garden. That was really cute. And she even performed it. She read it, narrated it on the channel, on the video itself. We'll link that below, so if you guys want to hear that, if you haven't heard it already, that was adorable. So that was a pretty neat thing. All right, and then if we swing around this way, we have a bunch of foxgloves back there. Those, of course, are past their prime, and we'll be probably either cutting those back or removing those, I think, before too long. Same with a lot of these sunflowers back here. They looked great in their time, and then now they're just fading and waiting to be dealt with. But that's a project, again, for another day when it's a little bit cooler. And the plant that I've been watching is this guy here. This is a Mexican sunflower, I believe. And at first, these weren't doing that one. I wasn't quite sure why. Turns out, I think it was the heat. Once the heat came, then they really started taking off and really looking more green and really blooming better. So yeah, these are doing quite a bit better than they were Over here, I think some of these, they don't look as good, but I think that's just because there's some of the dead stuff that we need to be, trimming back, and then the green will take over, and I think those will be thriving just like this other one is. We've got this salvia here. I'm not sure if this is, it's a variety of the Mystic Spires salvia. Monty, what you barking at, dude? Hi, bud. Come here. Good boy. So this is Janie's favorite plant here, this blue salvia. This is another one of those that kind of, no matter where you put it, whatever you do to it, it just grows. And so that's a pretty plant. We've got lots of that around the yard. And then we come through here, more of this Supertunia bubblegum, which is just always a star. The chartreuse bush behind it, I can't recall the name right now, but that one is doing really well. And yeah, so just a nice view. If we back up here and pan across the greenhouse here, just a very pleasant look, very pleasant entrance to the greenhouse. You will notice again right here, random Supertunia death. I don't know what happened. Same watering schedule, same basic location as the rest. No sign of gophers in this area of the yard. So I don't know what happened there, but I just think that's life. I just think that sometimes we have, I don't know how many, we have 10 or 12 Supertunia bubblegums here, and all but one are thriving, and then there's the one behind me in the bed, but I think that was our fault. But this one, who knows, but it just happens, and so you can't feel bad about it. Just that you're not going to have a 100% success rate. And then over here, more of the Supertunia mini vistas. These are doing just fine. There's some Superbena in there as well, and then some of this, I think it's called Scaevola fanflower, that is a little bit overwhelmed by the Supertunias, but it's still in there and still doing okay too. And then basically over here we have a mirror image of the other side, but yeah, generally everything's doing pretty well. These Mexican sunflowers, the salvia, the sunflowers behind it, and of course these Supertunias and this breath of heaven shrub, that chartreuse, a yellow looking shrub in the middle there, is doing really well. All right, and then as we're heading over toward the chicken coop area here, this is a newer area that Janie has done, I think, since the last garden tour. So you can see we've got some onions drying out down there. We've been lucky. Monty doesn't touch those. He actually doesn't touch really any of our plants. The only thing he likes to nibble on once in a while is some grasses, but we've been watching him closely, and we shoo him away when he's around really any of the plants, and he hasn't bothered anything that might not be good for him. So he's doing great. I think he's got an instinct that he shouldn't be eating that stuff. And so yeah, I like this little vignette here with the sign in the background and the pretty pots there. We don't get a lot of wind this time of year. No worry about any of that stuff falling off that shelf, but I think it all looks really nice. We've got the hanging basket next to it. That everything else got a little bit too much heat and too much sun, but that I've turned up the watering a little bit, put some fertilizer on it, and I think that's starting to come back a little bit and start to look better as well. We've got this honeysuckle here that continues to put on new growth, and it continues to just climb right up this, I don't know what you would call it, this frame right here. One day we'll put maybe a shade cloth on here or something, I'm not sure, but this honeysuckle is doing just fine right here. It's looking good. All right, and then as we come over here, this is a lilac bush that we planted here in the last few weeks. This seems to be doing just fine right there. No sign of any stress that I can tell. And then we'll head over here toward the chicken coop. Chickens are doing just fine. We're giving them plenty of water, and it's a nice shady spot here for them. Chickens are growing, and cute as ever, they're doing all right. They're starting to grow on me too, actually. What I wanted to show you really over here though was there's this hydrangea here that's doing just fine, and then right here, this beautiful pot that Janie potted up. We've got Brunnera, we've got this fern. I think this is a, gosh, that a sweet potato vine or something else, I'm not sure. Maybe a coleus. But, and then some creeping jenny here. This is just doing great. We have the aquapot light inside this pot here, and it's really easy to come out and water these every few days, and then it just wicks up the water and does just fine. But come over here, and again, same Brunnera problem. That Brunnera looked just like the other one not a few days ago. And then all of a sudden I came out here one morning to water, and it looked like that. Again, same exact conditions, same shade, same water, everything else in the pot is doing fine except that one plant. Yeah, I just think that we are pushing the limits on that Brunnera as far as what it can handle. Maybe we'll replace it with another one at some point, or maybe not. I'm not sure if those will come back if we cut it back or what, or if they're totally dead. But yeah, just an interesting concept there. I don't really know why two plants in the identical spot would behave so differently. And then over here, let's see, we do have another Brunnera in the ground here. Maybe that's one that could be transplanted and moved over if it continues to do well. And then these asparagus ferns, I think they're called. Here, everything is doing quite well. And then as I move over here, something else that I wanted to talk about is this area, this whole raised bed area, these Vigo garden beds, which have been working out great. There are some new plantings in here, and everything seems to be coming along well. Over here, we just put a bunch of flowers and shrubs in there just to hold them over so that they could actually set root and survive all of this heat rather than leaving them in pots. That's not going to be their permanent home. And then over here, this is the herb garden, and we've been harvesting off of this periodically. And the tomatoes over here, these are fantastic tomatoes here. They're such good, yummy tomatoes. It's so nice to get fresh food off of these plants back here. So that's been a lot of fun. But what I wanted to hit on is this staining that we get here from the runoff from the irrigation. It's possible that maybe the inline tubing that we have just produces a little bit too much water for these beds to hold. I don't really want to turn the water down though, because if we do that, then it's on the same zone as a lot of the other plants, and I think things will struggle. So I'm not quite sure what the solution is as far as that. It's not that much wasted water. It looks worse than it is. But the solution here that I want to work on is eventually here, and I'm not sure exactly when this project is going to get done, but I do want to put a border around this here. And there's this broken edge here. If I can put some kind of a border coming from the office building there to this corner down that way, and then on the back edge back here as well, and box it in, and then fill that maybe with some pea gravel, or maybe the similar 3/8 inch decomposed granite that we've used in other areas of the yard, something like that. And then I think what it'll do, it'll allow the water to drain down through it. It'll allow it to still go down that drain, but we won't have to look at the stain. And I think it'll transition nicely, because eventually what we want to do is to have a connecting path back here going back toward the chicken coop, and then maybe over to the right. We don't have finalized plans for this exactly, but basically to make this a more kind of usable space. If we had a path going, walking this way, and maybe it splits off over there, maybe it doesn't, I'm not sure. But yeah, then that would connect with this. So I think that's where we're going to be going eventually. I don't really have a timeline on that. This is just very rough plans. So let me know what you guys think about that, if there are any other better ideas as far as covering this area here, but that's what we're looking at right now. I almost forgot, I did want to point out, to get the tubing up to all of these beds, I was really concerned about having a trip hazard. So what I ended up doing is this. I put 1/2 inch tubing down here. This actually runs over to that honeysuckle and then over to the main area by the cut flower garden there. It also runs over here and then turns the corner down at the end over there and goes around and reconnects back on that side. And so we have a nice solid loop, so we have pretty good pressure here. And what I ended up doing is running the emitter tubing up over here where there's really no trip hazard at all. Nobody walks through this small area here. But I was able to, and I wasn't sure if this would work, but I was able to run it up the side of this trellis here, use some zip ties that are gray that blend in there, and I was able to run it all the way up and over and back down this way into this bed so that there's no tubing on the ground that we have to deal with. And it's worked. We've got plenty of pressure. I mean, obviously, as you can tell, there's water running out of these beds. It's getting plenty of water. Did the same thing over here. We have more tubing running up and over and down into this bed as well. That's a success. I wasn't sure if that small 1/4 inch tubing running up and over and back down would work, but it's worked really great. If you guys have any kind of a situation like that and you want to avoid a trip hazard, if you have decent pressure, running up and over things to avoid safety hazards totally is worthwhile. All right, you guys, I think that's about it for now. I'm sure I forgot some things and skipped over some things that you guys wanted to see. Sorry about that, but this was fun. I hope it was fun for you. It was fun for me to walk around and see some different things and try to look at it in a little bit of a different way. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. One disclaimer, I am going to be editing at least a portion of this video, so if it's not quite up to the standard you're used to, I apologize in advance. But anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this, and I hope you have a chance to get in your garden today.